So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And we're here with
Mark Miklos.
The grandfather
Grand Poobah
of the Battles of the American Revolution series from GMT Games. And what you can see in front of us, I don't know if you can see it very well, is a massive, oversized production of Savannah.
What are the measurements on this board?
Well, most of the big boards are 4 feet by 6. This one is a little bit smaller because of the way they cut the seam.
Okay.
But you almost need a croupier stick to reach the middle of the table.
So we just spent the last 5 hours playing the kind of full game of this, and it went like 18 turns. This was, we played Brandywine a couple of years ago, so it was great to revisit the system and be able to sit down with you, Mark, because this was something that we'd planned a couple of years ago that we had to take a rain check on. And so it's been a wonderful experience being able to get together and do this and play it 3-player the way that it was kind of originally designed.
Yep.
So a big thanks for sitting down with us, teaching us, and taking time out of your day to do this.
Well, it was terrific, wasn't it? We had a lot of fun. A lot of people came by and said, "What are those guys doing with funny hats?"
It took 5 hours because of the amount of pictures we had to take with people.
when a little bird told me that you guys had gotten some paraphernalia and something was said about a powdered wig, I said, "Well, I got to go all in, right?" So I'm in a Hessian. Actually, may I stand?
Absolutely.
I'm going to stand up.
You'll cut your head off.
I'll cut my head off, but you can see it's a complete Hessian uniform, not a costume, but actual uniform.
And it is real wool?
Real wool. After 5 hours wearing this, I am spent.
It is warm here in
I
sunny
need a morale
California.
check.
I'm wearing Amazon.com. Thank you, Jeff Bezos.
Yes. $18, I think these were. So.
But doing this was a lot of fun because, right, it's all about the experience, right? The big board helps create the experience. The costuming, it's fun. You don't have to do it, but why not, right? Let's have fun doing this. Let's walk back into the 18th century, right?
Well, and for me, one of my favorite historical periods is the American Revolutionary War. And this, to me, was, as soon as we decided we were going to do it, we were like, well, we're getting a little costume stuff, and we're getting into it, and we had a good time. There was a lot of pleasantries and pageantry going on between us, and
much doffing of hats.
It's a role-playing game.
Yeah, we had a blast, so that's what it's about.
Much doffing of hats.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, do we want to say what happened to the Allied Army?
So the way that this game works is 3 players.
Oh, heavens.
We got our asses beat.
Can you say that?
I don't know.
We can now. Grant played as the French, and I played as the Colonials, and so we're like an allied team trying to assault, Savannah. And so you're playing very defensively behind all of the redoubts and the defenses. And for reference, when Grant says that we took the ass beating of a lifetime, the end score was 11-0 victory points and 20 to 4 morale. That's almost about as bad as it can be, I think.
Yeah.
But even with that, as kind of the score was extremely skewed, what we were doing was really, really, really enjoyable.
Blast.
As it was when we played Brandywine, right? It was going back to this. Some of my favorite parts of the game is the tactical cards, because we've played a few games that have that kind of an idea, and it's, you can line up all your guys, you can get great stacks, you can get your good leaders in, calculate all your odds, but then you always have these tactical cards where it's this little, bluffing style game of trying to outthink and outwit your enemy on a matrix that gives you modifiers that you were like, oh no, I messed it up. And so your sure thing is now not sure.
And early on, Alexander, because the Americans arrived first with a vanguard, and early on I sortied out, and you and I actually had some really interesting maneuver, and we engaged a couple of times, and the first thing I said, I don't know how you play with respect to the tactics, and there's that whole element, and it provides a die roll modifier to the other cumulative die roll modifiers, right? So So people who say they don't like the tactics cards, I would appeal to that and say, in BOAR system, it's the mods, not the odds, right? I'd rather have a lower odds attack with multiple die roll modifiers for a lot of reasons than I would a bigger odds attack with no mods. So why would you deny yourself an element in the game that builds die roll modifiers? That's part of it. And I'm reminded, if I may, what you said on your Brandywine replay from a long time ago. You said, I lost a leader. And at first I thought, all right, well, I know I'm going to give up a DRM in combat, maybe in rally. Then the next time I wanted to fight, and I went to my cards, I said, oops, I don't have a leader. I can't use all these cards. And you suddenly realized you were hamstrung.
Yeah.
So, play with the tactics. They're a lot of fun.
4 basic cards
Yeah.
that if you don't have a leader, you can use.
Yep.
And then there's another 4 that can be used
With a leader.
with the leader. And that makes a huge difference because as you're looking at these tactical matrices, you can kind of guesstimate, okay, they only can play these 4. Here's what might happen, and it makes it much simpler. When you have the full 8 cards, the whole boat, it becomes much more of a difficult task. And this is actually one of the best parts of the system, I think.
It's one of my favorite things as well because it's this extra step in combat that doesn't take that much time. It doesn't detract from the game, but the tension that it adds is something that I find very enjoyable.
Very tasty.
And it's that little moment of and then you're doing it, and then it's that reveal, that you get that every combat, that little moment of extra tension gets your heart racing in a way that if we just throw the dice and calculate the odds, you don't get.
So it almost deepens the tension and the experience
without
because
question.
you play the card and you're like, huzzah, I got a +1, and then you roll the die.
And you get the die roll
and
tension.
you get all the DRMs, and it's like, oh, I did really well. So it's just really a well done.
Or you did all of that,
system.
and then you still messed it up in spite of all of that.
Right.
And so the failure feels even worse.
Even worse.
Oh, because that happened. It was towards the end of the game. Their first assault, and I'm gonna first say that even though
how bad we were.
No,
I'm
gonna first say that even though he pointed out the score and the morale and all that, and it would seem like an overwhelming defeat. In fairness, I had terrific artillery dice, which they have to close on me in order to attack the city. So I winnowed those attacking columns by pushing units out of the assault, and then some of those ensuing assaults being diminished like they were didn't go well. Now, with that said, over here, Alexander, you had an attack on me. You had +2 with all the other modifiers. You had a leader, I didn't. You had a breach, which took away a defensive factor for me. Whatever it was, right? It was net +2 going into the cards.
Yeah.
You always pull the card as the last
and I always
DRM.
roll the dice immediately.
and you got another +1 on the card play. Now it's +3.
Sometimes
and you were. I saw how thrilled you were.
I might do it.
And so, I mean, what happened when that die was rolled? Is that where you pushed my infantry support out and I had to abandon the guns? Is that where that was? Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so now my infantry supports are pushed out. There's an artillery piece abandoned in front of him. And if he had gotten the next initiative, he could have, of course, stepped in and captured it. So it's, it is all in BOAR. It's don't discount the modifiers. That's the rule of thumb, right?
Oh, yeah. And I've heard you guys say that as we've talked about the different games over the years.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that. DRMs are always very, very important in a game that has them. Otherwise, it's just a straight die roll, right?
Yeah.
And that's a little scary.
Well, if it's a straight die roll and it's nothing but odds columns, we're back in 1968 playing the original, I don't know, Battle of the Bulge or something.
Right.
We're long past that. It's generations later now in games. I'm talking about all games. They're very sophisticated and there's a lot involved. And here, as you discovered, in this battle, there's a lot going on. a lot going on here. It seems straightforward, and to some extent it is. I'm in Savannah, you've got me bottled up, you're going to attack, but it's not quite that simple, is it? Right.
Yeah, the other thing I really enjoyed about this was the division between the strategic game and the tactical game.
Oh, yes.
Which was a very, very, very cool of us as the kind of the besiegers or the assaulters get to decide when we initiate that assault. And there's limitations of, when you can do that or what a good time to do that. Or, we launched our assault in a storm. And just
not recommend
don't do that. That's not a good idea. We should have
delayed a day or two and hoped that the weather would have changed.
But there's also consequences to that, where the British would have gotten much better and some good reinforcements, and they would have completed their defenses and had a penalty removed.
Yeah.
So everything comes at a cost or a price.
Yeah.
But then once you do launch it, you slip into the tactical aspect of it, where you drop some of the mechanics, and then it's like fight, and it just feels so furious at the end. And the game has a really cool narrative with a crescendo that, again, I think a lot of games, that's not maybe as poignant, but it feels so present in this, which I thought was a really great credit to the design.
Thank you for that observation. And to your point about when to attack, right, if I may say, every choice is risk-reward. No choice is free. If you attack late, granted, my defenses in Savannah have been completed, but you've had that many more turns to bombard the city. Right. These guys got 3 breaches. Yeah. 3 breaches in my wall.
Is that like normal? Or
that's better. That's better than average.
Okay.
It's not so common to get only 1, but I would say typically 2. You got 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you attack later, you're bombarding longer. And how much fun did we have with the bombardment?
Oh, that was
Zealous gun crews.
The Zealous gun crews twice.
Well, they got Zealous gun crews.
A 9 to hit, and then you roll again to determine the damage, and I think I rolled like an 8.
The first one was an 8-8 because I was like, whoa, and then the second one was an 8 as well.
Okay.
And it was like,
yeah, just incredible.
Oh, it was terrific. So waiting to assault, which is what D'Estaing historically elected to do, provides more bombardment opportunity.
Yeah.
But it gives the British the chance to finish their defenses and get all their reinforcements. Problematic. If you attack early, which is what the American army wanted to do, then you don't have your entire force mix up, because when you jump to the tactical game from the strategic game, you forfeit any remaining reinforcements that are yet to arrive. So if you attack early, you're catching the British with their pants down a little bit. Their defenses aren't complete, but you're giving up potentially reinforcements and those opportunities to continue the bombardment of the city. So when you choose to jump is up to them, and they have to agree. And can we talk? It didn't come up that much in this game, I felt, because you guys were very cooperative.
Yes, we were.
Well,
but can we talk about the limited reinforcements?
Because it was very bad very quickly.
But there are limited resources that the Allies have to share. And in competitive play, that really comes to the forefront. Both armies hit the wall. They both are stretched. They both need a diversion, but they only get one diversion to share between them.
Yeah.
Who's going to get it, and how do you decide? And that's not scripted.
No.
And the use of momentum. You had one momentum chit at the start of the game. You used it early.
What did we do?
You canceled one of my.
We re-rolled a really bad result in all of the skirmishing we were doing.
Oh, that's right. And that was a good use of momentum. And you readily agreed. The French player, readily agreed to let the American have it. But let's imagine that you had one, and it was later in the game, right? And it was a critical situation.
Mark Herman's dancing.
He's behind the camera dancing.
Crazy person.
Yes. What if that were the case?
Yeah.
And winning the game was at stake.
Yes.
Because only one player can win. So the Allies want to defeat the British.
Yep.
But then only one of them can win the game.
Yeah.
And in a friendly game, over a beer at your house on a Sunday, maybe you don't care. in a competitive game, and these are played competitively, that does percolate to the forefront, and I designed that intentionally because I want the allied players to feel the friction that was extant on this battlefield.
Yes.
So it wasn't.
And I think historically we play very well together generally.
Yeah, if we're doing co-op stuff, we're pretty good at it.
So I knew that might be a problem for us, that we would just be too nice to each other.
Yeah.
But also when you have a 6 or 7 or 8 point VP lead, I just wanted us to
do something
successful. So I was more than willing to give my left arm if it would have meant we would have had a good odds attack or something.
Yeah.
And it's easy to assess like what the best thing to do with it is sometimes.
Yes.
At least it was in this game, and perhaps when it's
closer,
tactically different, that you might be
change.
more greedy about something.
Yes. Or if this was a tournament play game, right?
Yes.
I mean, you would not be as willing to give it over.
Oh, and can we talk about one more thing? I'm going to step out of frame and grab the cards that were played, and perhaps you can, if you want, talk about random events and how that...
Yeah.
So I don't... Are there random events in Brandywine? I don't remember them.
No,
I didn't think
not,
so.
yeah.
So that was something that was new, and we'll talk about them here, but those were a very refreshing addition to this, at least for me.
They added, I think, a couple of things. They added the historical layer to the game, because the cards put in a lot of those smaller bits, but it also made it feel a little bit more of a game.
These are the ones you
were
played.
Very powerful effects.
Yes, these are the ones you played over here. Oh, that was sweet. The French finished their first entrenchment, which allows them then to bombard Savannah.
Yeah.
And the British can't counter battery unless the French open the bombardment. So Grant opened the bombardment, and when I went to counter battery, he played this card.
And ammunition depletion.
Ammo depletion, which denied me the opportunity to counter battery.
Yeah.
And then look at this. You had 2 of these.
Yes.
They accelerate gold and rum. D'Estaing offers his Teamsters gold and rum to accelerate the arrival of French artillery. Well, he had 2 of those cards. There's 3 in the deck. A 52 card deck, 3 of them.
Yeah.
You had 2 of them, and it triples the already bonused movement that they got based on the entry hex they came on. It's in the blink of an eye. This slow-moving, heavy caliber artillery was up at the front. It was incredible. I couldn't believe it. I played that.
Unfortunately, we didn't do much with them.
Yeah.
Well,
they got there quickly.
I fault the battery
The sniper
commander
rolled a
for
9
that.
and killed my leader.
This
that
was a
brutal.
good one.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Well,
This
and
was
once
good.
again,
These are all yours. Look at these.
Each of these cards is a specific historical element from the period
So-
and the time in the battle, and that was very cool.
And they made a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
Like one of them was able to give us an additional breach in an area where I think Mark felt a little bit safer.
I did.
And all of a sudden it kind of opened up a new attack lane, which was awesome.
We got rid of one of his leaders during
Oh,
our
yes.
assaults,
Which
is
really
important.
changed, or could have changed,
Could
the
have
outcome
changed.
of a tactical combat. I liked all of the things that came from the cards, because it was just like they're very specific, so it adds the historical flavor, like you said, but also those specific historical things really can have an impact on the overall game by impacting a small thing and having those domino effects down the line.
Absolutely.
In a way that was really rich and very fun.
So, to that point, for example, historically, this is where Count Pulaski was killed. It was a mortal wound. I think he died 3 days later. And there's a card for that, and lo and behold, I had that card, and I played that card, and the American player has to change out his Pulaski's Legion counter. It loses some of its capability, and he decreases his army morale, because the word spreads through the ranks that Pulaski, who by now was quite known and esteemed
Was killed.
in the war, was killed.
Mortally wounded.
And we have his quote, his dying words on the card.
Yeah.
Follow my Lancers. And so to your point, right? Those
Yeah.
little moments are captured here.
But I will say this about this system. I think I said it when we did Brandywine, and we've talked about other things. This is an extremely playable, has some crunch system that I think anybody can do. Right? It's not overly complex. There's a little bit of calculation and numbers, particularly in this one with the readouts and the different things. But anybody can play this system, pick it up, and play it well. We experienced that with Brandywine and this, and we're going to play more volumes. It just takes time.
Sure, and you have a million games to play because that's your business.
Well, that's us, yeah.
But I do think that's a credit to you, your design, your design team. The series now has, is it 12 volumes?
10 published.
10 published.
Number 11 has made the cut on P500.
And then Small Bore.
And Small Bore made the cut on P500.
So really it's 12 so it's been popular, it's been around for a while.
26 years by the grace of God.
It's still growing. I think that Small Bore is going to open the door for even more players who will be drawn. I'm looking forward to it. So, but I think that's my general impression of the series, the system. The games have been very interesting and fun to play.
That's very kind of you to say that. Very kind.
So, can we get a last word about some of those things that are upcoming on the horizon or that are about to be released for the good folks who are looking into ball for the first time?
Sure. So, Small Bore, let's start there. The Battle of Cow Pens, very famous, very decisive, and that is the flagship game for Small Bore. It's already, I think it made its P500 number in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was announced like 6 weeks ago, I feel.
Well, I don't remember, but from the day of its announcement, in less than 2 weeks, I think it made the cut. Now that design is Bruno Sinigaglio, Dave Stifler developing. It's ready for the art department. It's done. It's going to GMT. Behind that, Small Bore, still talking Small Bore, Bennington and Hubbardton, which will probably be released as a dual pack Small Bore game, fought in Vermont.
Who's designing those?
His name is Curtis Fyock. He lives in upstate New York. He's a surveyor like George Washington was, so there's that. And Dave is developing. And those two battles were a part of the Saratoga campaign.
Yep.
Next, we've got a guy, John Foskett. His expertise is period artillery, and I lean on him heavily for research and stuff. In fact, if you ordered Tri-Pack 2, which is very nearly ready, I'll say more about that in a quick second, but if you ordered Tri-Pack 2, one of the games in there is Monmouth. Look for a complete redo of the artillery establishment for both armies in Monmouth based on the research that John Foskett provided me with, for which I am very, very grateful. Because we want it right, we want it authentic. We want the uniforms to be correct,
We don't want this, we want this, right?
So that's, but anyway, John is just beginning now to do the research for Harlem Heights.
Oh, okay.
New York campaign, immediately preceding White Plains.
Yeah.
Battle of Harlem Heights. And finally, Small Bore on the farther horizon is Cooch's Bridge, the only battle fought in Delaware. It was part of Howe's campaign against Philadelphia. Okay?
So that would be 4 volumes.
4 volumes, 5 games.
Yeah, in that newly announced series.
4 volumes, 5 battles.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it's really, I don't know the right adjective, but I have a wonderful, warm feeling that designers want to get on this bus and help me broaden the scope of what we offer. Now, when I was working for a living and raising a family and building a career, I could do a bore design in 2.5 years. When I semi-retired 5 years ago, I accelerated that to basically a 1-year window. Now I fully retired about 3 weeks ago. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm hoping now to do a design in under 1 year.
Okay.
Because the core system, to your point earlier, is the same.
Yeah. You're just bolting things on.
Bolting
that are
on the
historic.
chrome that
Doing
make
the
one
Oro
battle
battle
different than
reset,
another.
battle lane.
So that's small bore. On the bore side, volume 11, the Battle of Greenspring. I brought the playtest copy with me here. We got in some good playtesting. I told Gene Billingsley yesterday at lunch that I felt like this weekend with fresh eyes. I've never been to the West Coast for a con, so I'm meeting people that have never played with me face to face. And I've put good players down to play each other, and I took notes and just GM'd, right?
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, we found something that needed a little clarifying in the rules, and that's why you play test. But I told Gene that after this weekend, I would be ready to send Greenspring to the art department. Now, I don't know when it would get into the queue. I have to talk to Kai Jensen about that and so on, but it's ready. That's volume 11. And if you don't know it, I know Greenspring sounds unfamiliar to perhaps some of you.
Prelude to Yorktown.
Prelude to Yorktown, largest field battle fought in Virginia, and it was the immediate prelude to Yorktown. And
So
it's
that
a
was
very
like
interesting situation.
Early.
It was
81?
July the 6th, 1781.
There you go.
And Yorktown was October.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and now, of course, I'm already thinking about what's going to be volume 12.
Well, could you spill the beans on that?
May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. You're the first.
Gene might be mad.
I haven't talked about it with Gene. Sorry,
Okay.
Gene, but I don't think there's any harm.
No.
I don't think there is either.
All right.
So
So
the 5 people that are going to watch this, we'll keep a secret.
Surely
It's
they
more than
will.
5,
Surely they will. So it's going to be a dual pack. You're going to get 2 games in the box. The battles of it's general. Well, let me say it this way: it's the Carolinas, while the British are ascendant, and while the British are in retreat.
Okay.
So you have the Battle of Camden. Charleston has fallen. It's 1780, and the British have marched on Camden, and they meet Horatio Gates, the supposed hero of Saratoga.
Granny Gates, right?
Yeah, Congress gave him a gold medal.
Yeah.
Benedict Arnold won that battle.
Well,
Make
and-
no mistake about it.
And that historical event probably led to Benedict deciding.
It contributed.
You know what?
It contributed.
I'm not needed here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
It contributed.
Yep.
It contributed. No,
amongst other things.
Amongst other,
Yes.
that's for another
Not being
video
paid by
another time. Yeah.
Not being paid by Congress.
There,
into a loyalist family.
Yes,
all that
yes,
stuff.
yes. So Gates is coming south to rescue the Carolinas, and he's beaten handily at Camden.
I visited that battlefield, by the way, in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. The other game is Hopkirk's Hill. Now, Cornwallis is gone. He's on his way to Virginia. And it's now 1781. And Nathaniel Greene is reconquering, South Carolina. And there are several battles that are part of that campaign. Hopkirk's Hill is one of them. Lord Rawdon, whose regiment is the Irish Buffs, I might add. We had some Irish fighting for the French against the British in this battle, because let's face it, any enemy of the British is a friend to the Irish. There you go. I love saying that. I don't know how true that is anymore, but I love saying
it's
it.
still very true.
It's very true. So, but anyway, so Lord Rawdon has to scour every bloody man he's got. The cooks, the walking wounded,
Are armed. And
some armed slaves. I mean, he's got to get everybody that could shoulder a musket, and he still can only come out with about 900 men because he's got to leave somebody in Camden against Nathaniel Greene. And, you know, I love Nathaniel Greene. It could be argued that if Washington had fallen late in the war, Greene might have surmounted him as Supreme Commander. Early in the war, no, it would have been Gates or Lee. Thank God it never happened. But could have been Greene. But here, I fault Nathaniel Green for losing the Battle of Hopkirk's Hill. And we could talk about, you can buy the game, read the historical notes, and see my thinking on that. But those are the two battles in volume 12.
Nice.
And I'm starting to think about what 13 is going to be, because 13 will probably be the last game I do in full bore, because there were 13 colonies. And many years ago, someone told me I can't do a Revolutionary War series without 13. So I'll stop after 13 and probably then shift gears to take this Boer core series into the French and Indian 7 Years' War, because it's very adaptable that way.
Okay.
And that's what I'll probably do.
Nice.
But meanwhile, small bore will keep going.
Yep.
So,
Well, that's great.
so that's what's coming.
Very exciting.
Awesome.
Oh, and Tri-Pack 2, last thought.
Yeah.
Tri-Pack 2 is still on Peak 500. You're getting a second edition Monmouth, which I mentioned, a second edition Germantown, which had a bad rule book in the first edition. There are living rules, but thanks to Rob McCracken and his brilliance, we have now an outstanding rule book for Germantown, and Newtown and Oriskany are in it. Newtown, the only thing we did, because some players were challenged by the fact that the Indians are asymmetrical, and the Indian player doesn't play by standard bore mechanics. And some players like, man, I just can't, there's too much going on, I can't wrap my arms around it. So we created a one-pager, color-coded, matrix-style player aid card that completely captures everything that you would need to know about Indian capabilities in that game. It's going to be very helpful, I think. But Oriskany is a complete, we broke it down to the skeleton and built it back up. It's a complete redo, bona fide second edition, Don Hanley designing. Has done a great job. We have 3 scenarios now: the standard game, a short fight that is just the ambush of Herkimer's Column, and a full campaign that includes Benedict Arnold's arrival with the relief column.
Okay.
Speaking of Benedict Arnold. So we've got that, and that's all in Tri-Pack 2. That's on P500. It's made the cut long ago. There's 2 guys in Australia who are giving one last play test to the Oriskany, and everything else is done. And they're on the clock. McCracken gave them like 3 weeks. So that report is due back any day, and then go into the art department.
Nice.
So that's what's coming.
So
that's a long
lots of
answer,
good-
but you see, Boer is
Very alive.
there's a lot going on,
Very
and
alive.
God, 26 years later, I don't know why I was so blessed, but I'm thankful to everyone that plays Boer and supports it. Guys like you who help promote it, and
You were a young man when you started this.
I now have gray hair.
Me too, Mark. Me too.
Me too. Well, yes, thank you so much
Been a
for
pleasure.
sitting down with us and allowing us to play this with you. And I'm looking forward to all of the things that are upcoming from this. And I hope that we can pique your interest. So people who might be on the fence or might want to look into this, it's well worth it. But thank you so much for doing this, and thank you guys for tuning in. I've been Alexander for theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.
God save the king.
God save the Queen. King. Oh no.